Um, anyway, let's perk things up a little
Yes.
and very quickly take a look at our uh, TV picks of the month. Shall I go first?
You go first. Yeah, you go
Yeah.
first.
Okay.
Yeah, go on.
This month, I at the beginning of the month I had a week away in Northern Ireland. It was absolutely wonderful. Although I'm terrible, absolutely terrible at actually genuinely relaxing. Case in point, the first evening, the evening we arrived, I said to my wife, I said to the in-laws and my brother-in-law, I don't want to go out tomorrow. I don't want to go out for days. I just want to stay in, relax, and just chill. Of course, the next morning, I'm such a cabin feverish, crazy person that all it took was the slightest hint that we could go to Coleraine, and I was like, oh, let's go to Coleraine. And I skipped into the bedroom and I said to Mrs. Soup, oh, we're going to Coleraine, and she was just shaking her head and giggling. But in the rare moments that I actually did manage to relax, what actually anchored me to that moment of relaxing was this TV pick of the month. I took advantage of my brother-in-law's Amazon Fire Stick being plugged into the TV. Uh, you know, that's not an advert. And
Other
watched
digital media are available.
are available, but not if you want to watch this series, and that is American Gods. Uh, it's a TV series based upon a book by Neil Gaiman, by the wonderful, imaginative writer Neil Gaiman.
Yep.
And it is also by the same production team behind the TV series Hannibal. So it is just gorgeous. It's one of the most visually stunning, just sumptuous things that you could possibly hope to watch. And Hannibal was the same in that sense as a three-season TV series. And in the case of American Gods, what really hooked me, and I think what would interest people, I think, at home, if they're interested in archaeology and this kind of thing, is this concept of the gods that we carry with us. And the whole premise is that everyone who's gone to America has taken with them their gods. And gods don't have to be formal gods. They can be, for example, the internet. We worship, in some respects, media. We sit down in front of TV screens and we give over our time to them. Gaiman has taken such an elegant approach to this that essentially what he's set up is a war between the old gods and the new. And this whole TV series actually starts out with, and this isn't a spoiler, it's the first sort of 3 minutes of the whole thing, or 5 minutes. He starts out with Vikings arriving in America before Leif Erikson does. This is like an unrecorded arrival or discovery, and they're trapped. They're trapped. There's no wind. They can't go further inland because the Skraelings, the natives, will
Yep.
will arrow them to death, and they end up desperately trying to get Odin's attention, and they through various means, they manage to get his attention, and one of these means actually is making a statue of him. And as they finally leave America, they cannot wait to go home. According to the narrator, none of these men ever set foot on a ship ever again because it was such a horrendous experience. They ended up basically having to sacrifice one another in a bloodbath to get Odin's attention in sort of like a mock war. Um, but they leave Odin behind. They leave this statue behind, and Odin, we are told, was waiting for them when they returned. And Odin becomes Mr. Wednesday. And it's interesting
You
how
get what they did there. Yeah.
yeah, Odin, Woden, Mr. Wednesday,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and in that sense, Gaiman's also acknowledging the roles that these gods and these traditions play in our lives today. So Mr. Wednesday, as he is now, is frustrated, and he wants to have one final glorious battle against the modern gods, the new gods, the gods such as the internet and media. Uh, it's a fascinating TV series, and I strongly recommend it.
Well, no, actually, that does sound intriguing, and that dichotomy between the ancient and modern, and how we deal with the ancient and the modern in modern life is fascinating, isn't it?
Well, I think
Um,
just very quickly, I think it also it ties in as well to this concept of ritual. People often
yes.
ritual is an easy target for in archaeology. People often sort of say, if you don't know what it is, it's a ritual. That's the old
Yeah.
joke.
Yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely.
but we all submit ourselves to ritual. I mean, we're conducting a monthly ritual at the moment. It's
Yeah.
interesting,
Yeah.
and so in that sense, this is an exploration of expressions of ritual, and by extension forms of religion. Again, religion is simply a collection of rituals, really,
Yeah.
that we're all part of, and so it's a
As
very elegant idea.
as is the annual conference of the Black Burnish Wear 2 Society or whatever. It's
Yeah.
it's
Exactly.
yeah,
Yes.
no, absolutely. We all have our little rituals, and we were talking about them a moment ago with the Muppetry, weren't we? The ritual of making a cairn or taking a piece of bluestone or something like that. It's no, so actually to see a really intelligent, creative artist deal with those sorts of issues, I think is fascinating. So I should look that one up.
Excellent. Definitely do.
Thanks for the tip.
Okay, so what's your pick of the month then?
Oh well, it's more fake history, I'm afraid. But that actually is rather more important, I think, than some lousy research on a photograph for a satirically named History Channel documentary.
Okay.
It's the DVD release of the film Denial, which is the dramatisation by.
Is this about Cleopatra in denial?
No.
No. Okay.
As Gracie Fields once said, the biggest asp disaster in the world. No, look it up on YouTube if people don't get that one. Biggest asp disaster. No, anyway. The Denial is it's actually a very serious subject. It's playwright David Hare's take on the trial of American historian Deborah Lipstadt, who was accused of libeling David Irving, who at that time in the 1990s was a relatively reputable historian of German military history in World War II.
Mm-hmm.
Lipstadt accused him of being a Holocaust denier, and Irving sued her for libel in London. And it was very much a cause célèbre. The case went on for weeks. It cost millions of dollars for Penguin Books, who were defending who, to their credit, actually defended the suit. Right, and in fact, the premise of the film is not to put the Holocaust on trial, did it or didn't it happen, as Holocaust deniers like Irving say, but to actually put Irving's historical method on trial. And the way they did that was some very clever legal manoeuvres and strategies on the part of the solicitor Anthony Julius, and also the QC Richard Rampton, who's played by Tom Wilkinson, which was effectively to put Irving's historical methodology on trial, to show that he'd actually manipulated the sources, manipulated the documents deliberately to put forward a pro-Hitler Holocaust-denying message. And one of the ways they did that was to commission the historian Richard Evans, now Sir Richard Evans, to work for over a year to basically analyse every published article and book that Irving had written, and to go back to his original sources and look at how he treated them. It ended up Penguin won the case, and the judge basically. Penguin being the publisher of Lipstadt's book.
Not a penguin.
Penguin being the publisher of Lipstadt's book, and and thanks to the judge's the judge's verdict, David Irving is officially a bad historian and a Holocaust denier. It was really crucial. It's quite stagey. It takes place really in a number of set pieces. First of all, in Lipstadt's university, then on a visit to Auschwitz-Birkenau, and then lastly the court case in London. One of the advantages is it's some really chewy material. It makes it's some really, particularly in the current climate of fake news and the accusations of the Trump administration over Holocaust denial and so on, and also it just shows, I think, the importance of good, solid historical method and using evidence properly and fairly and appropriately. So
Wow.
it's a good lesson. And then, as I say, it's terrifically acted as well. Rachel Weisz plays Lipstadt.
Mhm.
Tim Spall plays Irving. It's a very solid piece. It was co-produced by the BBC, BBC Films. It's just for the subject matter, I'd
Mhm.
strongly recommend it.
Okay. Well, actually, I think in that sense, it kind of touches back on, because I know you sort of alluded to this before, but it touches back on what we were talking about earlier in terms of Amelia Earhart and this History Channel mockumentary, really, or documentary, whereby actually, in some ways, that's what we were talking about there. That's probably the least. That's one of the least damaging ways in which
Yes.
bad research is propagated, in terms of
Yes.
making a quick profit through a clickbaity premise. Whereas actually in this case, I mean, apparently this film is based on a book by Lipstadt, History on Trial: My Day in Court with a Holocaust Denier.
That's right. And
Um,
there's also another very good book actually by Richard Evans about his experience and the work he did called Telling Lies to Hitler, which again
right,
is highly recommended.
right, okay. And it's interesting how that, I mean, that is um, yeah, putting to one side obviously the question of the Holocaust. I certainly have no problem accepting that they happened. But it really puts it, as you say, puts into firm crystal focus this question of how we know what we know, how we
Yes.
go about proving that it happened,
Yes.
and it's almost metaphysical in some ways. Some of this.
That very question is put into the mouth of Richard Rampton QC in the film. He actually asks or says to Lipstadt, we know the Holocaust happened, but how do we prove it to a court?
Yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah, and there are some philosophers. I mean, philosophers can talk about this all day, can't they? But there are things like how can you prove, for example, if you close the door, what's happening outside the room? This kind of
Yeah,
thing. All
Schrodinger's
these sorts
cat
of
and all
questions.
that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So okay, that sounds like a very meaty film. I shall look
it
for
is.
it. I shall try and I won't look forward to it. That's probably the wrong phrase, but I shall seek it out definitely. Okay, well, we've made it through another episode. Hooray! Um, thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Well, thank you, Mark.
And
It's a pleasure as always.
thank you. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what happens next month. I suppose one final thing that's worthwhile noting is first of all, well, two final things. First of all, obviously, everyone at home, definitely do feel free to submit any ideas
Please.
for focuses for us in the future. If news stories come to your attention, bring them to ours. But also, finally, as well, this month sees the archaeology month in Britain. Basically, the Festival of Archaeology is
And the day
ongoing.
of archaeology tomorrow.
The day of archaeology
At the time of recording.
tomorrow at the time of recording. Yes, today being the 27th.
Of Yes.
So if it's still ongoing when this goes out, definitely check that out. But that said, there's an awful lot of archive material as well.
I was travelling across the River of Thames on the Woolwich Ferry yesterday, and it was just a spectacular view of the old Woolwich dockyard. And I Facebooked it simply as a sort of contribution to the Festival of Archaeology for anyone that happened to be looking at my Facebook thread for that. Because just I think just as a reminder really that history and archaeology are all around us, and that was the old Royal Dockyard where Henry VIII's Great Harry and Charles Darwin's HMS Beagle were built and first took to the water. So
Cool. So it's all an opportunity to reflect, isn't it, on the archaeology around us,
and
definitely.
absolutely exactly the archaeology that is all around us.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. Cool. Okay. Well, in that sense, then we should be doing that, and I think most of us do that every day, don't we? We tend to notice these things all the time, but it's a good excuse to focus in the month. Okay. Well, as ever, guys. Until next time, do take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.